to talk about such a cataclysmic yet victorious chronological space and time without focusing yourself on the intentionality of the focus of power. See, you view the first saying as the power of forgiveness, the second saying as the power to endure, and now here the third saying, the power to transposit or to shift power.
Come on, son.
So very quickly, Jesus challenges two of the most vulnerable places in my humanity, which is my will to forgive and my ability to endure.
Right. Come on, son. Right. Come on.
So once we get past these two areas in our lives, then Jesus subjects us to his power. He grabs me, he endows me with his powers. So generally, when we're at the bedside of a transitioning loved one, their final words become extremely important. Final words, because it's their final declarations, their final acclamations, their final proclamations, and we need something to hold on to so that I can know that this particular loved one will be all right.
Come on, sir.
So here we are at the foot of the cross. The final words of Jesus from the cross. And so the disciples, or John the disciple, and those that are around the foot of the cross are beginning to feel the transition because Jesus is beginning to leave them. He's leaving in this corporeality. He's leaving in this pulchritudinous boundary. He's leaving in this physicality, and he's telling them, I have to leave you in this way because I'm coming back to empower you. And the only way that I can empower you is to leave in this physicality and send the comforter in the spirit. So final words become extremely important. And so the impact becomes astounding because Jesus begins to move them and he begins to shift them from he begins to shift them from sensual perception. He moves them from sight to faith.
God.
He says, I need to shift you from sensual perception. I've got to move you from a place of sight. I've got to move you from where you are to a place that you've never been, because from the time of my birth to this very moment, you've been with me in my physicality as a son and as a leader. But now I want to know, will you be able to follow me with the ebullience and the drive? When you can't see me and you can't talk to me in the same sense that you do right now. And so it brings about a specific attitude because we like to see things. Sometimes our greatest hindrance is our sight and our sensual perception, because we like to see things. As long as I can see the financial growth and I can see the growth in my personal life and I can see the growth in my church, then I'll be all right, because we like to see things and we like to touch things. But Jesus is bringing us to a state of affairs where the real ones of us have got to walk by faith. And it's a challenge whenever you've got to move, and it's a challenge whenever you've got to transition from the comfort of a pulchritudinous presence to the challenge of a spiritual presence. So he's challenging my faith in order to shift me to another place.
Real good. Come on.
Teach it, sir.
See, Jesus says, I want to empower you, but I've got to move you to a place that you can believe that I can empower you. Because Mary, as long as you see me as baby Jesus, you'll never see me as Savior Jesus.
Yeah. What about it?
So I've got to move you to a place where you're not worried about the anguish and you're not worried about my pain, but you're worried about my saving power. Because I'm moving you to a place that you can believe that I can save you. God says, if I empower you, it's because I'm going to release my spirit and put it in every one of you. And I want you to believe cognitively that now I'm not outside of you, but I'm inside of you.
This is good.
Sometimes it's a difficult thing to understand because Jesus is establishing the phenomenology of power. I need to tell you that your body separates what's outside of you from what's inside of you. And so once you understand the phenomenology of power, you understand that what's on the outside does not have the power of what's on the inside. And so Jesus says, I've got to leave in this physicality so I can get inside of you so that I can declare that greater is He that's within you. He that's within the world. See, I can't overcome the world if I'm still a part of the world. You see, I can't overcome something that I still walk in every day. The problem is a lot of us are trying to overcome situations by just leaving it. Rich white people might do it all the time. Baby fall in love with a man, Papa don't like him, I send him off to Siberia, send him off Sri Lanka, send him off until I get this person out of my spirit. But leaving a situation does not empower a situation. The only way that you empower or you overpower, you overcome a situation is you've got to fight with it. There's some things that's just, the altar is just not going to be enough. See, because when I was growing up, they told me just go to the altar and get some prayer. But I still went through things on the outside of the church. So, was it me that was wrong? Makes me question. Some things you've just got to wrestle with so that you can know the power of your God.
Good stuff.
And so the Bible says here that it was when the soldiers turned their back that Jesus empowered his disciple. He substituted himself for us. And now he's saying, I'm leaving and now I'm substituting you back. I'm putting you back in position. Because we sin. Jesus lived sinlessly, correct? So why did Jesus die? Wasn't for Jesus, it was for me. And so Jesus said, I substitute myself for you. And now that I'm leaving, I want you to substitute yourself for me.
Come on.
It's impossible. It's impossible to be you on the outside of the church. Come into the church and say that I work for God. Impossible. Let me explain to you why it's impossible. I cannot be in the world and not of the world if my power is not from another source outside of the world.
Come on, son.
And so if I say that I'm a kingdom kid and I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, then I have a source on the outside of the world. And so the way that I act should not be the same as those that are in the world. See, I can't talk like this.
Teach how you feel, son. Come on.
See, the thing about faith and walking with God is that each of us has to deal with the external attack of the enemy, which is designed to break us down psychologically. But when faith enters, suddenly we have something to fight the external with, because once I believe God, there is a uniqueness of my faith that God's brings me now into a relationship with Him, and my faith allows God to define me.
Come on.
And so God says, greater is He that's within you than he that's within the world. So people have a way of intellectually judging you based on what they see around you. You base me off of what you see around me. You see that I'm in an environment that might not be too good for me. But what's around me does not judge what's on the inside.
Wow.
And people can intellectually base you off of what they see around you. But unless they have the same spirit that you have, they can't tell what's on the inside of you. And so my faith is what allows God to define me. And anytime I'm defined by faith, it elevates my praise, and it elevates my worship, and it elevates and encourages me, because I'm not seen in the limitation of a human being. I'm not seen in the limited eyes of a human being, but now I'm seen in the all-powerful eye of Jesus Christ. It changes my disposition, because most of our dispositions has been fed to us by men. And men has limited us in the way that we feel and in the way that we think, because all things are possible to them that believe. And so there's no greater freedom to become than to believe that you can become. What you believe you want to be is where you end up. It's where you yourself ends up. What you believe. And so Satan tries to keep us moving and to keep us from jumping from one thing to the next. And he tries to vex the system so that I have to work 3 jobs, and it makes it difficult for me to make it to the house of God. And it makes it difficult for me to do the things